Empty the chamber on them. And how do you do that? First 6 seconds, point 8 to 20 feet, everything you got. Everything you got. Turn that shit up. Let's go.
Welcome to the Scoop World Order Bold Predictions Edition, question and answer. Merry Christmas to all of you, Scoop family and soon-to-be Scoop family. We appreciate you guys. I hope you guys are enjoying the content. We have been cranking these every night. They are an absolute blast, and honestly, you guys that tune in help carry these things, so we appreciate you guys. With that being said, as always, we are thankful and grateful for you guys. Thank you guys for showing up and making us part of your day and night. We show up, we have a blast. We really enjoy interacting with everybody. These things have been an absolute fantastic add to what we do, and we really appreciate you guys tuning in. If you need a last-minute Christmas gift, BuckeyeScoop.com subscriptions are the way to go. They are a blast. A lot of value there. In terms of a monthly fee, it's less than Netflix, and you'll get 10 times the use out of it. I promise, and I appreciate you guys. So thank you guys. With that being said, to bring in my good friend, Nevadabuck. Nevada, how are you tonight?
I'm doing great, man. It's bowl season's in full effect. The bowl prep's in full effect with the Buckeyes. They're getting ready to head down to Georgia in a few days, and it's a great time of year. Very exciting. Lots of stuff going on.
Yeah, it's interesting because the guys broke today to go home, and it's always kind of a weird, nervous anxiety. Hey, what's up, Sue? Sue is always on. Sue, you're the best. You're on every single one of these. I'm gonna put her comment up just because she's on every single live. Merry Christmas, Sue. We appreciate you as always. When you're a coach, you got to kind of figure out how much time off do you give these guys. Generally, it's like 4 days. I believe they're gonna go down Christmas night to the site, but it's always hard because these guys are gonna go home, they're gonna see friends, they're gonna party, they're gonna hang out. It's just I don't know, and it's just hard because like when you're in that groove of practice, you can you have a much better feel on the team. But whenever everybody splits, and you have people going to Florida and California and Texas and every part of Georgia, every part of the country, it's tough, But then the team will fly in together, and it's just I don't know. It's one of those things where I'm just excited to see how these guys get cranked back up after Christmas, because that can be a challenge. That was something that when I talked to coaches that were on staff at '06, they felt that like we lost a lot of steam when we went home for Christmas. Like we had really good practices at the Woody, then we went out to the site and the practices weren't good. They weren't as crisp, and then we got our break speed off. So it's a really critical time right now. I know most fans don't think about that kind of thing, but when you've lived bowl prep, football's hard. I mean, I've told you, it's a really hard sport because, Christmas Day, there's NFL games, Christmas Eve, there's NFL games, there's practices. And it's like, when you're a coach, there's certain coaches that they hate the holidays because it's like the ultimate distraction because everyone's family's coming in, everyone's, the kids are getting toys. Oh, I got to go wrap presents. And, coaches are just about, hey, we got to have a good productive day at work today, good productive practice, good film. But, people are just used to not working on Christmas or not working on certain days of the year. But in football, none of that matters. And nothing made me more aware of that than when I first got to Ohio State as a freshman, and I realized that we practiced and worked on Sundays, which, in high school, you never do anything on a Sunday. There's never any basketball or football practice. But in Ohio State, you practice every day. So that was kind of an eye-opening experience. Nevada, you've been around sports for a really long time. You've been around all levels, professional, everything. Did holidays ever affect any of your planning, as you ran teams and were around teams, or your kids are at high-level sports? Does that ever affect anything with you?
Well, no, I think it does. And I think, it's interesting because I always look back on, you were part of that '06 group. I think you guys, how far in advance did you guys go down there to Arizona? It was almost like a couple of weeks, wasn't it? Like,
oh, it was one of the dumbest things that we've ever done. We went out there on the 26th and we played on like the 7th. So it was literally like 2 entire weeks at the bowl state. And the bowl state is just it's not conducive to good, tough practices. It's spread out. The football field is, generally you get on the bus, you get to ride 40 minutes to the football field, work out for 2 hours, do your practice. And then it's kind of like everybody kind of goes their separate ways. And it's just not, it's not as tight as if you could have guys at the Woody all day working, practice, film, getting treatment. I don't know. Like I much rather would stay at the Woody for longer, have them grind us harder there, have everything you need, your weight room, your treatment, your hot tub, cold tub, all the amenities at the Woody Hayes, as opposed to going to a bowl state, which that those days are dead. Those days are gone. We never did that again, just because it was too much, it was too long, it was expensive as hell. I don't know. Like I thought that was, and again, I don't take anything away from Florida, but like that was one of the dumbest things I've ever seen. And did that cost us the game? I don't know, but I mean, I wouldn't do it if I was the head coach. And that was something I just think nobody thought of, because like, oh well, we're used to going out on the 26th. When we beat the Miami Hurricanes, we went out on the 26th. But it just, I don't know. That was a long time, and the game was later just because that was the first year of the BCS championship game, so there wasn't like, the bowl game, the national championship games previously were like, the Fiesta Bowl was the national championship, then the Rose Bowl was the national championship, but this was the first year that there was a standalone national championship game. So they still had the Fiesta Bowl, which actually that year was the Oklahoma Boise State game that was famous because they were in the Statue of Liberty and won. Because I remember we couldn't go into our normal hotel until after Boise State left, because they were staying at the Scottsdale Princess, which was our normal hotel, and it didn't work. Like, I mean, if I told somebody, hey, you're training to run the New York Marathon, or you're training to climb Mount Everest, and you got to go stay at basically like an all-inclusive resort for 2 weeks, and then you got to go do it, you'd be like, well, I don't want to do that. Like, I'm used to my normal routine of working out, running. If you're serious about it, you're getting massages, you're getting therapy, you're doing hot tub, cold tub, and I said, well, no, you got to go do it at an all-inclusive in like Mexico or something. Like, it's just not, it doesn't have all the things that you're used to and you need, and you get out of your rhythm, you get out of your habits. And, I think that's something it's real critical right now for the coaching staff and the team. Nevada, anything there? I know that was a long diatribe, but anything there?
Yeah, well, I just, it's been interesting because I think, Dave's been kind of learning from this. And I think, Dave did a nice job of going to, some of the best minds. And this is one thing that he kind of tapped into Urban Meyer on, in terms of asking him about what he thought was the optimal number of days to go out before, a big game like this. And, Meyer had told him he thought it was 5 days. And interestingly enough, I think they're going out on the like you said, the 25th or 26th, playing on the 31st. I think, 4 or 5 days is that sweet spot. It's enough time to kind of go out there, get yourself ready, get yourself primed, get yourself acclimated to, whatever, whether it be weather, the time change, just, the routine, but not enough time to kind of lose your edge. So I think this is one thing where, Dave's gone to smarter people, more experienced people than him in terms of what he's doing, and followed their advice. So I thought that was a really good sign going to this Georgia game. And I think it's something that, just one of those little things that you look at in terms of, Ryan Day using kind of applied knowledge, learning from mistakes, learning what's gone on in the past, what successful people have done, and copying that. And that's what great leaders do. And I think this is just one example of something where he's done it this year in the preparation for the Georgia Bulldogs. And I think it's a very promising sign.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that, 4 days is about optimal, because, you got to understand, like, for some people, this bowl game is like this is the crown jewel of their year. There's a welcoming committee, there's a bowl committee. I actually interviewed the president of the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl. Fantastic guy. They really want to put on a nice show, like, for everybody. Super hospitable, really nice events planned, and honestly, like, the events are nice because I get, they want to get good photo ops and they want to get everyone together and let the players have some fun. But, there's a lot of joint events between the Georgia guys and the Ohio State guys. And, like, I never liked that, just because, like, I don't really want to mess with those guys, because, like, I want to kill those guys. I'm not really down to share ham sandwiches with them and stuff. But that's something that the bowl's kind of force, where it's like you go to the FCA breakfast, you go to, they're playing like family feud against each other and stuff, and it's like I don't really mess with people, especially when I'm getting ready. When I'm getting my mind right, I'm not. I only have one. I either like you or I hate you. There's no like warm or cold, or it's either, and that's just how I'm wired. But I didn't like messing with people. Larry Bird was like that too. I mean, it was funny because Magic Johnson used to act like they were homies because they played in a Team USA Olympic trial together, and like and Larry like I can't do that. That's just not how I'm wired. And I totally related to that. I got a great comment in here from Dave Rice. Dave, you're awesome. You're on all these two. You and Sue are kind of our, two of the stewards of the show. I feel like you guys should almost just be on the show at this point. Dave Rice, this is great. So you never know who's watching. Dave says, I was at some of the practices at Pinnacle, that's the high school. It's a beautiful high school that we were at. And he says, Luke was ripping the linebackers about how they're running drills. And I remember Kirk and TJ hunting wild pigs. That is hilarious that you remember that. You have a great memory. So we didn't actually hunt wild pigs. I actually left a cheeseburger from the players' lounge out on the porch to see if the pig would eat it, or one of the pigs would eat it. But what do you say in Arizona at the Scottsdale Princess, when you walk, and this is like a 5-star resort. This is a no joke, super expensive, beautiful spot. But there's signs, everyone has like these little like villa things where you like walk, it's not like a hotel where it's one big building and you go up to the 75th floor. It's like a big spread out compound. And there's signs everywhere that say, do not like engage or feed these javelina pigs. And I mean, it'd be one thing if there was one sign, but there's like a sign every like 10 yards. So I was like, these things have to be out. And I never saw one. I thought it was like we were going to be walking to the room and, these pigs would be charging at us and stuff because, they're like nasty little dudes. They like say, if you see one get on a chair because they can't jump, they got like little stumpy arms and stuff. But it was just funny because I didn't even know what a javelina was, but they're just like, I guess they're like rampant out there, or they were at the time. And, so I was like, I wonder if one would eat a cheeseburger. So I left it on the porch. Like, I didn't actually hunt it because, like, I didn't have that kind of energy. I wasn't out like, with a knife, like doing some Schlegel stuff. But I don't know. I was always like kind of fascinated. I was like, are we actually going to see one of these things, or is it like the Loch Ness Monster where they don't really exist? So that is a great memory, Dave. Appreciate you on that one. Nevada, yeah. Did you go to the '06 game?
Yeah, no, I went to the '06 game. I was at the '06 game. I was at the '07 game. Yeah, that was those were tough. Those are tough back to back. So I shared the excitement with you. I shared the disappointment, and I like I said, but those games, it's funny. You look back on those games and you kind of get a feeling before these games. And I've been doing this for so long and watched so many games with Ohio State. You kind of get a feeling as to what you're going to get. So, like the '06 game, while it was, it was shocking but not surprising to me because I thought so much had been riding on that 1 versus 2 matchup against Michigan, and Florida had been disrespected the whole time, and it was just a little concerning getting that run up. And I get the same feeling running into this Ohio State Georgia game where Ohio State's nobody is giving them a chance in this game, and Ohio State's well aware of that. Ohio State is well aware of the underdog role that they've had in this spot, and I don't know. I think Ohio State's a dangerous team, and I know Georgia feels that Ohio State's a dangerous team, and I'm not sure if Kirby's getting his guys to buy into that yet, but I know Kirby's aware of it, and it's gonna be a fun matchup for Ohio State fans. If you're going into a game like this, that's where you want them. You want the other team kind of overlooking you, kind of thinking maybe they're going to walk through you. Maybe they're tougher than you, they're bigger than you, they're more athletic than you. Man, Ohio State's gonna come out and play. I'm telling you right now, calling it. Didn't feel this way in '06 and '07. Had a funky, just a wonky feeling before '06 and '07. We knew what we were up against. This one got a really good feeling.
Yeah, I think Kirby's got, he's got to fight. They're the defending champs. They're playing at home. Everyone at Georgia is going to be talking about, should I book my flight to LA? Should I get my ticket to LA? Should I LA? I've seen this movie before where people are, they're looking past like the 4 seed. When you're the 1 seed, and you're playing the 4 seed. Everybody's going to pick you to win. No one's going to pick the 4 seed to beat the 1 seed, outside of us. The players have already been there, done that. And again, like the last time Ohio State was on the field, they got thumped by Michigan, and Michigan got thumped by Georgia last year. Now it's not the same players, it's not the same team, but I think that like there's a mental thing where these guys are like, oh my God, this is the same Ohio State team that got killed by Michigan the year prior. And then we saw Michigan in the Orange Bowl and we smacked them, beat the tar out of them. They look like the Northern Lamb. So I think that there's a mental thing where kids kind of do the comparative analysis of the schedule where you're like, okay, who have we, is there any common opponent? Is there any 2 degrees of separation where we could say, okay, we both played, or we had an opponent that played, Penn State. We played Auburn and we beat Auburn by 77 points, and Penn State beat Auburn, and they barely beat Penn State. Or it's like these kids that I've been around them. Like I've been one, and it's like they sit there and they just kind of compare stuff. And if you look at Ohio State and I mean, they got smacked by Michigan bad. I think that's good for the psyche, and I think that's something that Kirby has to beat down hard. The fact that, look, guys, you can't look at that Michigan tape. You can't say, "Oh, we're gonna run all over them." Oh, you can't. I mean, you can't count on breaking a bunch of 70-yard plays versus a defense that played their worst game of the year. The safeties played the worst game I've seen them play in multiple years, and expect that. You can't say, well, we'll hit a bunch of 70-yard plays and we'll be fine. Like, that's not how football works. Like, usually, you're lucky to hit a couple of those, but you can't count on 5 of those. That's almost extraordinary. But I don't know. Oh my God, this is great. I'm bringing out the 06 stuff. But I just think with Georgia, they're I'd much rather be in Ryan Day and Ohio State shoes than Georgia shoes, because you're going down there. Our guys are going to be gassed up, hyped, because they're going to be playing on the road. They're going to be getting booed. It's going to be a pro Georgia crowd. So I mean, if there's ever a way to ensure that the team will be hyped up, ready to go and start fast, it's go to Georgia and play the Bulldogs, or go to like when we played Louisiana, LSU at LSU. I wasn't worried about being ready to go, and we were winning 10-0 at the half. Now, we played the dumbest football in Ohio State history the last 3 quarters, and it cost us the game. But you got to play, when you're playing these games against equal talent, you got to play a clean game. You can't go around, screw around, headbutt guys, take penalties, screw up special teams plays. Like, you have to play a really clean, tough, good game, and that was our problem. Like Florida, we got blown out. Ted broke his leg the first play, just wasn't meant to be. LSU, we just played stupid. It wasn't like they took the hammer to us. Like, we did dumb things. And when you do dumb things against good teams, you're going to lose. That's how football is. But Nevada, any other things you're looking at towards this game? I'm really excited about it. I think that Ohio State's got, of all the great opportunities Ryan Day's had in his coaching career, this is by far the biggest to me, because, you've got a team that a lot of people projected to win a national championship. They would have been number 2 if they didn't slip up versus Michigan. And, the way the schedule shook out, as crazy as it is and as dumb as it sounds, I'd much rather play Georgia with the month to prepare than play Michigan and then have a week to prepare for Georgia. Because, if we got to get ready to play Michigan, we already have a scouting report on them. These guys know them. They're going to have plenty of ammunition ready to go for that game. They'll be up for that game. Georgia's a team we haven't seen in 30 years. So there's no commonalities. There's no scouting. There's no book on these guys. So having that extra time to study, I think, is huge for the coaching staff. But like, what are your thoughts as we get closer and closer? I mean, because we're like almost there. I mean, my God, I can't believe how fast this year's gone, and we're 9 days out at this point.
Yeah, well, I think there's 2 guys that that I've seen kind of flashing in the bowl prep that I really think are going to play a big role for the OSU defense, and one of them's Josh Proctor, and the other one's Cody Simon. And I think you're going to see more of those 2 guys in the game. I think you're probably going to see less Tanner McAllister. I think you'll see less, Cam Martinez or anybody else at the safety spot. And I think it's going to be those hybrids are really going to be a key for Ohio State defensively. Cover those 2 tight end looks. And I think Ohio State likes what they can get with those guys. I think they like what they can get with Proctor. I think they like what they can get with Cody. And when you look, if you're putting a Josh Proctor and a Ronnie Hickman and a Cody Simon and a Steele Chambers and a Tommy Eichenberg all out there in the field, I mean, you got guys that can run. I mean, you got guys that can run and have size. And I think they're going to probably dare Georgia to kind of beat them through there. I think they're going to probably try to man them up a little bit more. Georgia likes it, when they have those zone defenses, so Stetson can kind of soften them up, pick out those easy completions. I think they're going to go out with, I think they're going to really try to be aggressive against the Georgia offense and make Stetson Bennett beat them. And I think it's the right game plan defensively. And as you said, if they break off 5 70-yard plays for touchdowns, it's not a winnable game. But if you limit those mistakes, limit some of the kind of the outlier plays that kind of happened in the Michigan game, and I think Ohio State's going to be right there. But when they are, it's going to be guys like Cody Simon and Josh Proctor, 2 names that you haven't really heard of a lot this year. But I think those guys are going to play key roles in the defensive effort for the Buckeyes.
Yeah, I totally agree. I got some Jaden Bonsu film he signed today. I just got him going in the background, so I guess I have something to look at other than my face. Sue, I love these questions. Guys and ladies, please keep these questions coming. This is a great question. And I'll start with you, Nevada, because if we win the toss, do we take the ball and score fast and set the tone, or do you defer? Which do you prefer, Nevada?
Well, I think it depends on the game and the condition. In a game like this, I would take the ball. I think most people, oh man, again, love having Kirk drinking the water on the thing. We got a suggestion for Kirk. Turn off your microphone when you drink your water on there or something like that. So we're sharing the guideline with everybody out there. Oh my God. Make it stop. Make the bad man stop. No, I would take the ball. I think, conventional wisdom is to defer. People like to get the kind of those 2-for-1s at the end of the half where you get the ball, maybe you score, and then you get the ball again at the beginning of the second half. But with Ohio State, I would take the ball, try to, establish, what you want to get against Georgia is you want to get a lead. You want to go out there and get a lead, get ahead, make Georgia play from behind. I think it's like a horse race in this one. You want to get the horse out to the front. You don't want to be coming from behind against Georgia. And so in that case, I would take the ball.
I hate taking the ball. I always want to defer. I always like deferring. Now, granted, my senior year, we had the number 1 rated defense in the country. So it was like, we're probably going to get a 3 and out, get a short field, go score the first thing, set the tone on defense. I always like getting the ball after the half because you can make adjustments. You can come out. You kind of know what they're going to run against you. So I feel like it's easier to score. But I don't know. I always, and I don't think we ever took the ball with Tress. We might have done it 1 or 2 times because when I was a captain, I always, I don't think I ever got mad about one to take the ball. But I just, it is different when you have the number 1 defense because you kind of just want to sit and watch the defense go do their thing and get off the field. And, and again, if you could stop them, inside the 30-40, kick it, you get it coming in on the 30 the other way. If you have a good punt returner, I don't know. I always like deferring, and I don't know if I'm just old school, if I'm just weird, but I hated taking the ball just because I like getting it after the half. I don't know what it was, but I just always felt like it was better when the defense started on the field. I never started first on offense, but that's just me. And I mean, I played offense, but I always like seeing the defense out there first because I got to see AJ Hawk and those guys, and they almost always would get a 3 and out punt, set the tone, kind of demoralize them to start the game, and then we could go down and score or move the ball around. And but that's just my opinion. I could be wrong. Against Florida, obviously, we got the ball first and Ted took it to the house, and so that was great. That was like one of those things where I looked at TJ, I was like, okay, there's one. It's not over. We gotta score a bunch more. We didn't know that Ted had his leg broke on that play, but because the funny thing about that Ted Ginn return was that he played the next series. He was in the game the next series. So I never knew he was hurt. I didn't know he was hurt until the second quarter, and I remember I finally said, Ted, why aren't you playing? I was like, did he opt out? Again, I literally had no idea. I was like, because you're in the middle of a war and you're just like, why isn't our best player playing? I'd look out to the side and I'd see Roy Hall and Brian Hartline, and I'm like, where's our best player at? Where's Ted, the guy that is the first team All-American? Nowhere to be found. But I digress on that one. But yeah, I don't know. I think it's gonna be interesting to see what they do. If you do get the ball, in a place like the Mercedes-Benz Dome with Georgia, I just think that you have an opportunity to silence the crowd. Because that's a big thing. And when you're on the road, it's loud. The quicker you can score, the quicker you take a little bit of the air out of the balloon for the crowd, which I think is huge. Because if you take the crowd out of the game in Georgia and you give Ohio State fans a little spark, then that crowd can flip early. When you go to Penn State, it's always important to score early. Some of those places, because if all of a sudden you score, then they don't have the amount of juice that they do like in the pregame build up and the pregame run out of the tunnel. Like you can sap all that energy by scoring early and often. Which again, that's why I think Ryan Day, I mean, you got to start fast. You got to throw it over their heads. You got to show them you're not going to play scared. You're not going to just, hand it off them in bubble screens and hope for the best. Like you're going to try to throw it over their heads and play aggressive because they don't really have anything to lose. I mean, everyone's going to pick Georgia to win. Everyone's going to pick Georgia, Michigan in the national title. And, so if you're Ryan, it's like, just let it rip. All right, another question. Do you think CJ, this is, we say this every week. So Eric, this is a great question. Do you think CJ/Jay will take advantage of Georgia knowing how little CJ has run this year? I'm worried about a constant blitz like they did against Hendon and UT. Nevada, do you want to start with that one?
Well, I mean, he better run. I mean, he better run or he's going to die. So it's like, I think it's exactly right. I think the UT defense is what they're going to try to run against Ohio State. I think they're going to try to pressure him. I think they're going to try to hem him in, and they're going to dare him to try to break, contain, and run because he just hasn't done that a lot. And if he hesitates even a little bit when he does that, they're going to clobber him. So what I'd say is it's been a point of emphasis for Ryan Day. I think we've seen a lot of it during the bowl prep. Now the question is, will we see it in the game? I think we will. I hope we will. We need to see it in order for us to win. And people, you hear that and they think that means run the quarterback like a sledgehammer or like JT Barrett,
like Tebow.
Yeah, like Tebow, and that's not what we're talking about. We're just like, man, when they give you if they rush 4 and you find a lane between the defensive tackle and the defensive end, just go. Take your 6, take your 7, slide, try to avoid the big hit as much as you can, and heaven forbid you get hit, you're a football player. Pick yourself up, run back to the huddle, and let's go. But yeah, to answer the question, he better run because we need him to.
Yeah, I totally agree. Great question. I saw this mentioned on the forums. Don't think this is anywhere near possible just because, LeBron left Ohio twice. He's not going to do anything to help Ohio State. But Buckeye, I want to mention this in the threads in the forums, but why not get a hold of LeBron and set up some sort of NIL donor thing? Super Rich owns a sports agency, for Christ's sakes. Well, I don't think LeBron really invests in anything that doesn't benefit LeBron. I mean, I know he's got his academy in Akron, but that's mostly public funding. I mean, he's got his name all over it, and he might have written a small check for that, but LeBron's never gone here. And even the funny thing about NIL is a lot of the the former players that are NFL guys and stuff, they haven't given a penny to NIL. Guys that have made over $100 million, retired guys, guys that have done well in business. Like I think the hardest part about NIL is that the only way you can really do it is you have to have like a mega, like a billionaire, like an ultra wealthy guy running or at the top or bankrolling it. I think that like the little slush funds are tough, because it's a hard sell. I always look at, because I'm a sales guy. I've worked in sales for 15 years now, selling all kinds of different things. And I just don't, it's a really hard sell to say, hey, here's the deal. I'm going to, solicit your donation so that, this kid can have a nicer car than you do. He can drive a G-Wagon that costs $250,000. So could you, give us $500 or $1,000 so that he could work towards or whatever, or again, because it's not, you're not given to cure cancer, you're not given to something like that. You're given to like literally, hey, we have to pay for these kids so that our team can be good. It'd be like if the it'd be like if the Browns said, hey, look, I know you love Myles Garrett, will you pay for his contract, and just give us $1,000 towards his $250 million contract. I mean, that's a hard sell, because I'd be like, well, look how much money you guys make, look at this new TV deal, Ohio State. And it's funny because people keep talking about regulating NIL. I talked to someone really, really sharp about NIL today, and they literally said, well, I don't think the universities really want it regulated, because guess what? If you regulate it and you say, oh, well, you got to cap things and guys can't make this and guys can't pay this, guess who's going to have to pay the players then? The universities. And that's the last thing they want to do, is have to cut a check for $1 million, $5 million, $10 million, whatever these kids are getting across the board, across an entire 100-man roster. So it's going to be real interesting to see what happens over the next few years. Nevada, what are your thoughts on LeBron starting an NIL thing, or someone starting an NIL thing for Ohio State?
Well, first of all, in regard to LeBron is cheap, man. Anybody who knows
Oh
LeBron or has ever did LeBron is cheap, and LeBron is incredibly wealthy, but he didn't get wealthy by giving his money away. He hangs on to his money very very tightly. So that's probably not the answer, but the answer, do you need a mega wealthy guy at the top? Absolutely, that's what you need because even I know that they're doing like a subscription model and pay $10 a month, but it's like they claim they have 5,000 people doing that right now, which would be great. But if you do the math on that, that's not a lot of money. That's like $500,000 a year, which in the NIL world, that's not even one player. So it's like you got to get real about this in terms of what the financial commitments are. And with Ohio State, we talk around this all the time, but I don't know about you guys, but I get solicited by Ohio State, every week for donations. Virtually, I'm always getting an email, solicitation or a phone call or something. So these NIL things are directly competitive to Ohio State. So you've got, and on one, hand, they want NIL because they want to get the right team and everything. On the other hand, you are competing with Ohio State for a limited amount of money. There's not an unlimited amount of money in the world. And, for boosters, if you've got $500,000 or $1 million or 50,000 or 5,000, Ohio State wants that money. They don't want you to give it to Jackson Smith and Jigba or to, CJ Stroud so he can get a new Bentley. They want that money to go to Ohio State. So it's really set up an interesting dynamic where Ohio State wants to improve their product, but on the other hand, they don't want you taking that money that you were going to give to the athletic department and direct it elsewhere. So it's a mess. The answer for Ohio State is to get better about this, to concentrate their thing. The collectives have to have a focus. They have 3 collectives. One should focus on opportunities for existing players. The other one should focus on opportunities for high school players. The other should focus on opportunities for transfer and portal players. That should be the focus. It should be very specific. They should have very specific marching orders, and that's how they should operate. And as you said, you can't have former players or wannabes or anybody else running these things. They have to be the real deal. They have to be the Phil. You need to find your Phil Knight and have them do the things. What did Oregon do on signing day? It wasn't anything really exotic. It wasn't anything like, wow, this was so complicated. Here's what Phil did. Phil said, give me your top 15 targets for Oregon and call them up and find out what it would take for them to come to become an Oregon Duck. And I think they landed 9 of them or 10 of them or whatever it was. It wasn't any more complicated than that. This guy wants $3 million. Okay, that's too much. This guy wants $1 million. Okay, done. This guy wants 700,000. Done. This guy wants $6 million. Tell him to go to Oklahoma. I mean, that's what NIL is. So let's not sugarcoat it. It's not about name, image, and likeness, and it's all about the kid. It's pay for play. It's pay for players. It's pay for play. That's what it is. And in order for Ohio State to play, they need to have a super mega wealthy guy heading this up that can, be the tip of the spear in turning it out. Otherwise, they're always going to be a step behind. Good news is Ohio State's such a strong brand. They've got such a strong record of development. They've got such a strong coaching staff. They've been able to weather the storm up until now, but that's what you need to fully optimize it.
Yeah, I agree. I think you have to run it like a business, and kudos to the Gary Marcinek, who I know really well, Cohesion Fund, Brian Schottenstein and Cardell. They're all doing it for free, which I think is it's insane to me. And again, that's just and I said that to Cardell. Cardell called me the other night, and I was like, look, I don't know how you don't pay yourself, because you have to deal with people harassing you, people talking down about what you do. You have to work really hard at it. And again, like no good sales organization is going to have salespeople that don't make any money. I mean, like Pelotonia, which is a local bicycle, it's like a once a year bike ride to cure cancer. Doug Allman from Livestrong makes like $600,000 a year to be the head of that. So he's not doing it out of the goodness of his heart or because he lost, because he beat cancer one time. He's doing it to line his pockets, and that's how a lot of these charities are. And again, like if you, again, what do you bring in? If you bring in 6 million, or you bring in 10 million or 20 million, you're probably worth $600,000. So again, it's because I asked Cardell, I was like, do you guys have a salesperson? Do you guys have someone who is calling these people? Do you have someone? And it's interesting because they're like, well, we're trying to get a list of the biggest donors from Ohio State, and I'm like, I mean, that's never going to happen. Ohio State has paid millions of dollars in fundraising and travel and expense and in working these people to try to solicit donations from them. So they're not going to give you that list. That list is like the most valuable thing that they own of here's who's given, here's what they've given, here's what they've committed to in the future, here's what their approximate net worth is, here's what, what have they done? Oh, they sold their company. Oh, they hit the Powerball. Oh, they, whatever. They just sold their hotel in New York City for, $500 million. So we better be calling them. We better be taking them to the Georgia game. Like I talked to one of the biggest owners at Ohio State, and I said, are you being hosted by Ohio State for the game? Oh yeah, we're in the suite. We've got dinner the night before with the administration. And you get the layout of kind of how the megas kind of, fly into they fly in on the private jet or they fly in with the team on the big jet. Again, I lived this when I was a player. I'd always wonder, who are these old white people on the plane? I've never seen them before. And it turns out it was the mega donors. They're on the back of the plane. They're riding with the team. That's like one of the perks when you're in the Pay It Forward Foundation. You make that $5 million check, and then they keep hitting you up for more checks. That's what they invite you to do. Or and we'll fly out with the team. We'll fly back on the private jet. Like little perks like that. And that's kind of the thing. But that all costs money. Like that private jet ride costs $5 million. So it's a really expensive jet ride. But they're thinking, well, if we take them enough games, then we can ask for another 5 million, another 5 million. We could ask for like a life insurance policy, or like a gift that when they pass away, it slipped my name what they call that, when it's like when you die, you get this award goes to the university in your name. But again, that takes years. Again, like I live in sales. I deal with no's every day. And you just keep calling, you keep working, you keep grinding, you keep, you stay in front of people. And it's no different when you're soliciting a donation for Ohio State University. It's a grind. And a lot of these guys burn out. Like Raymond Harris, he left development because it's a tough gig. It's not, they don't pay really well. Actually, they pay horribly for the amount of work you do. And, you're asking people for money essentially for nothing. Like if I say, hey, give me $5 million, what do I get? You get a sign on that building over there. And it's like, for $5 million, that's what you get. And you can come, to one home game a year and sit in the athletic director's suite. So that's what you get. And I'm like, man, if I got $5 million, man, I'm getting a timeshare on a jet. I'm getting a house in Florida. I'm getting something that I can like hold and live in and enjoy. But that's some people they want to have their name on the stadium. That's why I'm glad I got a Buckeye tree, because you can't buy one of those. You got to actually earn one of those. So you can't buy the tree, not yet, anyways. But Nevada, you're one of the biggest donors in Ohio State. What's your reaction to that? Because I know you've dealt with it. You've been behind the scenes of fundraising. You knew Andy Geiger, who was a giant. But what's your reaction? When someone wants a list of those donors to raise money for NIL. Because again, my biggest thing with NIL with Ohio State was the fact that, look, that is like a direct competitor entering your market. It'd be like if someone started up a rival Ohio State site and said, hey, can we get your list of stuff? And I'd be like, no way. Like, I mean, it's like, if they're only going to sign up for one sub, we want it to be our place, not anybody else. So, but what's your reaction to that?
Well, I think you hit the nail on the head. It's just, look, you're talking about big money. You're talking about, people trying to, be solicited for these opportunities. And, for me, NIL, I feel about NIL like a lot of, I'm sure the everyday fan feels like it's kind of unseemly. The idea of, hey, would you like to donate money to the betterment of the athletic department or the medical school or the women's hockey program or something like that? Like, I can get behind that. But the idea of buying C.J. Stroud a new Bentley just has no appeal to me. And so, I think it's one of those double-edged swords where I recognize the importance of NIL in terms of what Ohio State needs to do, but for me, it's just not my thing. Like I said, I if I'm going to set up a charitable remainder trust, or if I'm going to do something that goes beyond me, or that I'm going to give in the meantime, it just seems like it has to have I wouldn't call it a philanthropic bent, but something that has a little bit, that's a less just kind of paying players. And again, maybe that makes me old fashioned, and maybe that makes me part of the problem, because I'm not embracing NIL, while recognizing, the difficulty of managing it. But that's just my, as a donor, as a person who's actually donated and been there and listened to the pitches and made decisions and designated things for Ohio State. Yeah, I'd rather do it for a building than I would for a player's fur coat. But that's just me.
Well, and again, like when you donate to Ohio State's athletic department, there's a point system, and it depends on, and they love updating the point system because they can always kind of flip it around and say, well, like a couple of years ago, it was like, well, any donation you've made in the past, each dollar is worth 1 point, but any donation you make this year, every dollar is worth 4 points. So you're like, oh my God, like I can, because the thing about Ohio State, for some of you that are season ticket holders, that there's a point system and there's like a pecking order basically where, do you get better seats, in the Huntington Club, your 50-yard line, low row, whatever. And if you give say you give $5 million, what does that get you access to? If you give it to an NIL fund, I don't know, you get to meet the players or something, maybe go to a practice. If you give it to Ohio State, you get access to a suite that you can have access to for the rest of your life. You get to buy it every year, but you get tangible benefits. You get courtside seats to basketball games. You get pregame field pass. Again, like there's little perks that you get to pick up when you do that. And that's the hard part for me is all I want to know is what am I getting for my money? And that's the thing with NIL is nobody can explain that to me. I've asked, if I give, say I bring some mega guy to you and he writes a check for $1 million, $2 million, $5 million, whatever it is. What does he get? You get to talk to players. Great. They should want to talk. If I'm one of those guys kind of check like that, I'd be like, those players should want to talk to me, not me talk to them. Because at some point, if they ever want to get above a certain level, you got to get around the really wealthy guys, because they're the guys that know how to do stuff. And most of them, in my experience, the ones that are the mega donors at Ohio State that I've really got to know, they couldn't be any nicer. They can't be any kinder. They can't be any more helpful. There were guys when I was starting my career in insurance that literally would give me, say, Kirk, we want you to do it because you're a Buckeye. You're working hard. You don't really know what you're doing, but we're going to help you. We're going to let you get a start. Get an older guy on this account with you, and you'll take it over and you'll do great. And I had multiple Ohio State people do that, and it was huge for my career because they believe in you. They see you hustling. They see you working. They see you, and for a lot of these guys that really make it and they're worth 8-9 figures. They appreciate the hustlers. They appreciate workers. They appreciate good sales guys, because salespeople, you can't find them anymore because everyone's sensitive and they can't deal with the nose. But I don't know. Like with an NIL company, you look at Division Street, which Oregon did, and they've got Nike executives. It's structured. People are getting paid. Again, like I don't know how you run one of these organizations and you don't make any money. Because if something's going to take up your time and you're going to be good at it, you got to be getting paid. You're not going to do anything for free very long. That's that takes time and talent, and that's just part of life. You kind of get what you pay for in life. You always say that. When you pay you get an $18 a night hotel versus a $500 a night hotel. There's a massive difference generally. So. Nevada, what else? This is good. So, all right. Steven, I like this because I get this a lot. You have no problem paying Ryan Day $9 million a year. So what's the problem with CJ having a Bentley? Nevada, I'll let you answer that.
Yeah, well, I'm not paying. It's a matter of personal preference. Like Ohio State can pay coaching staff whatever they want to pay them. They can do whatever they want. But I personally just don't want to buy CJ a Bentley. That's a personal preference. And it's great that CJ has a Bentley, and CJ can have two Bentleys, and he can have a Ferrari, and he can have a Lamborghini. He can have whatever he wants. But for me, I just don't want to be the guy that has to pay for that. I think I'd rather give my money to something else, and I'd rather give it to the cross country team, or I'd rather give it to the girls softball team, and so they can actually go out there and play, or have a practice facility or something like that. But just giving it to players, I don't know. It doesn't bother me, but it's just not something that I would want to directly support.
All right, well, we're going to switch gears. Again, we know NIL is a painful topic. Again, we talked way too long about it. We're going to switch into some coaching staff projections. Nevada, we talked before the show. Obviously, Kevin Wilson has moved on. Keenan Bailey has moved into the tight end's coaching role. Nevada, are there any bold predictions for you for the coaching staff, say, going into 2023 and maybe even 2024? How do you see the staff shaping up, changing? Anybody particularly on the hot seat, in your opinion?
Well, I'll give you two names. I'm going to give you two names that I want to throw out that I think could be returning to the Ohio State staff in some capacity over the next 2 years. This will be my bold prediction. And one of them was one of my favorite players, as you guys all know, near and dear to my heart. But that's JT Barrett. I could see JT Barrett returning in some role. I'm not sure exactly what the like a offensive assistant right now for the Lions. The Lions are playing real well. He's always been a guy that had great leadership skills, and I thought would make a great coach. I think he's a person that you might see on the Ohio State staff in the next 24 months, maybe even sooner than that. The other one, the guy's kind of an obvious one, but is Kenny Guyton. Kenny Guyton's coaching wide receivers right now at Arkansas, and I think that there's interest in trying to find a position for him. I think Kenny could coach anything. I mean, heck, Kenny could coach running backs, and if Tony Alford was to move on, either voluntarily or involuntarily, he's a guy that you might want to keep an eye on. So those are my bold predictions. Two names to watch for over the next 24 months to return to the Ohio State staff: JT Barrett and/or Kenny Guyton. That's my bold predictions for the evening.
I think both those guys would be fantastic adds to the staff. I think JT is one of the sharpest kids I've been around. He's a great leader, super impressive kid. Kenny's the same way. Kenny, people might not know he's been the wide receivers coach at Arkansas for multiple years now, worked his way up quickly. Was at Houston with Tom Herman for a minute. I honestly was kind of surprised JT Barrett didn't go to Florida Atlantic with Tom Herman. I'm not sure if Tom's got his staff filled out, but that seems like a natural fit. Have JT maybe start off as a tight ends coach or running backs coach, because the thing about when you work with Tom is Tom's going to be the quarterbacks coach, so that's not going to switch. Nothing's going to change there. But I also think you got these young. There's some guys that are getting into the coaching. I think James Laurinaitis obviously is a guy that I'm very, very fond of. I think he'll be a fantastic coach. He's working with Marcus at Notre Dame. That was kind of one of those things where the stars aligned. His best friend got the head coaching job at Notre Dame. Could bring James on as a kind of a defensive quality control. I'm sure he'll get elevated into a full-time job. If not this year, then surely next year. I thought there was some speculation he could go with Luke to Wisconsin, because again, that would be a great fit for James as well. But, there's some really interesting names of people that I personally think very highly of, and guys that I just, there's certain people that have like a certain makeup and characteristic that I always see, and I'm like, that could be a great coach. And I think JT is a guy that would be fantastic. A lot of the guys that aren't hyper talented, that are really great technically, that are tough. They get the lifestyle. Like honestly, it's like Brian Hartline. Like Brian Hartline, good athlete, not Tyreek Hill or Ted Ginn, but super technically, really a good technical player. Tough as nails, and again, those are good things that are great attributes for coaching. Because like coaching, one of the most, I guess, things that aren't really talked about is, if you're a coach, you have to be really tough mentally because it is a tough job. And I know that, people always look at your salary and say, well, you make all this money, you can't be that tough. But it's like, look, your families generally don't like your profession, your wife, your kids, because you don't see them at all. There's a lot of stress. Again, it's great to get that direct deposit. Obviously, it's fantastic. But when you lose to Michigan, man, and your kid's got to go to high school or middle school and get made fun of and get dogged out. Kids. The thing I learned in coaching, and I didn't have any kids, but I just heard the kind of the stories from the staff. Like kids are mean, man. And I'm telling you, like when these kids got to go to high school after their dad loses to Michigan or loses a Big Ten title or loses a national title, it's rough, and it's hard on the wives. And, I went to, a Houston Cougar game, and it was just like, man, these wives get drunk during these games because it's so stressful. So it's crazy. Anybody else you could see? Is there anybody, if you could build out a coaching staff, is there anybody that you would like to add, like in a dream scenario, someone that you think is really good from afar that you'd like to see coach at Ohio State?
Well, for me, I want people that kind of get the rivalry, that get what it's like to be at Ohio State. And that's why, when I hear names about ex-players or something like that, like, we talked about Laurinaitis, we talked about Guyton, we talked about JT Barrett, those are the types of guys that excite me. And that's what, my dream scenario, bring back Mike Vrabel, bring back Mike Vrabel. He's a guy that gets it. He's a guy that understands that if Ryan Day moved on and coached the New England Patriots, and he had a chance to get Vrabel and bring him back as the coach of Ohio State, that's to me, that's the dream scenario. So I think you've got to have guys that kind of get it. I know, we were watching a video the other day that I can't remember if you sent it to me or what it was, but it was JT Barrett. You don't happen to have that JT Barrett video from the locker room?
Oh, I do. I don't have it loaded onto Huddle, but I can load that onto Huddle for the next show. But yeah, where he's like going nuts in the locker room and
I don't think people realize what a bad man JT Barrett was. JT Barrett was a dog. Like this guy he was a genuinely tough guy. He had every leadership characteristic that you'd want, and that's the kind of guy that you want leading you into battle or leading your young men, from a coaching perspective. Give me those guys. Give me somebody like Vrabel who just has done it at every level. He's outperformed, he's outperformed his high school ranking. He outperformed his college ranking. He outperformed his pro ranking as a player, and he certainly outperformed his pro ranking as a coach. So, he's done it, at every level and every capacity. Bring him back to Ohio State, and I think he'd be magnificent as a head coach at Ohio State.
Yeah, and anybody that wants to see that video, I'm literally loading it onto our Buckeye Scoop Twitter, which is at buckeyescoop.com. If you don't follow that, please give us a follow. That'd be great. This is a great one. Steve and Cherry, appreciate you, bro. Nevada, if Hafley gets the axe at BC, which could happen because they stink, would you bring him back as a co-defensive coordinator in some capacity?
I wouldn't, but I wouldn't be afraid to offer him some sort of a, quality control or whatever we call those specialist assistants. I'd hire as many of those guys as possible. Alabama has just feasted doing that, and you say, well, how could Hafley do it? They had Sarkisian doing it. They had Kiffin do it. They've had everybody do those roles at some point in time. I think Ohio State would be well versed to do that. The challenge on that defensively is when Knowles was hired, he was given full reign to run the defense, and that was the only way that he would come on. And Ryan turned the keys to the castle over to him. So I'm not sure if having more voices on the defensive side is the answer. I think we're gonna be sink or swim, live or die with Knowles as the defensive coordinator. So hopefully he has some answers, and he thinks he does. We'll find out soon enough on December 31st if they've kind of fixed what they think was broken.
Yeah, I totally agree. This is another great one. How long do you think Coach Mick stays? And then do you think Schlegel? I don't think Zach Bourne. He's never done any strength conditioning in his life. Schlegel, maybe he was at the Jags for a year, but I think you have to get a guy who's like a real strength coach. Like Schlegel did it for a year, and it just But I mean, Mick's making $1 million a year right now, so it's like that's like with Larry Johnson. I mean, people say, well, is he going to retire? Is he going to retire? I was like, well. You look at the money he makes as a position coach. He's making like $950,000 a year right now to be a D-line coach. That's a great gig. It's like, can you hang on for one more year? You've got all these super talented guys. Didn't have a great recruiting cycle. Whiffed on, the 3 superstar DNs, Keon, Mateo, it just, Damon Wilson, all went elsewhere. So that kind of little knife in the heart there. But I don't know. I think when these guys are making, they start the beginning of their career making $100,000 and now they're making $900,000 to do the same job. Like, I think it makes some of these guys hang on for as long as possible. But Nevada, your thoughts on how much longer Coach Mick could stick around?
I think he's going to be around for a while. Like you said, he's got one of the best jobs in the world. He's got full autonomy to do his thing, and he's working not only with the football team but with all the teams and really having a chance to make a big impact. And so I think he's going to be here for a while. He's still a young guy, and so I wouldn't see him moving anywhere in the next 10, 15, 20 years. So I think he's going to be here probably much longer than I'm around.
No, I totally agree. I just don't see it. I think Urban's done coaching. I think he realized it was a mistake to get back into coaching after you get that Fox job where you're making $2 million a year to do basically, you work like maybe 30 days a year total, and you're making $2 million. Like, well, I deal with the stress of coaching. So that's the only thing that I could see Mick moving for is to go be with Urban. But again, like the people I talk to in the Woody Hayes say, quality of life working for Ryan Day is a million times better. It's easier, it's lighter, it's more fun, it's less tough, which again, I don't like any of those attributes, but that's how it was described to me. It's like, you don't walk in there scared to death like you did with Urban every day. And, I don't think that that's great, but that's, if people have a chance to work for Ryan Day or Urban and be stressed out, miserable and performing at, the highest possible level every day, or just kind of having fun and it being nice and cool and calm and go get a workout in and eat lunch for an hour and a half. And, I mean, I guess I get it, because generally, like, I worked for Urban for a year and I know every day was tough. It was miserable. Every day was what's going to go wrong today, what nuclear bomb's going to get dropped on us today, how are we going to be ready to go for it? And, you didn't clock watch or anything, but man, you knew when you were getting 8 hours in, man, you're going to feel every second of every minute of every hour in there. So, when you work for Ryan and it's just like, oh, well, hey, let's go up and eat lunch and chill in February. Like I was in there one time and I couldn't believe how all the guys were like just chilling. I was like, wow, this is different, but it is what it is. Everyone's got a different way to skin a cat, and that's Ryan's way. So, but your thoughts on that, Ryan, the kind of the quality of life between the two coaches?
Yeah, well, like you said, we know what life's like now, and we talked to those guys, and they love it. It's great. There's less stress. The guys have been able to kind of redefine their job responsibilities, and stuff that would have been unthinkable under Meyer. So it's like you said, it's Ryan's way. It's his ball game. It's year 2022. People talk about Myers last year in 2018 like it's like 18-18 or something like that. So I guess it's we'll find out soon enough if it's the right way or the wrong way or just a different way. But it's definitely different.
Yeah, and again, they could go out and win the national title. Like again, not everybody. There's Bear Bryant could win, and there's the one I remember the one coach who was in Minnesota at I think it was a D3 school. Like they were one of the highest winning percentages of all time, and they never practiced in pads. So there's a lot of ways to skin a cat. Trust me, I'm not being negative towards how Ryan does stuff, but I was like, man, it sure looks nice to be able to eat lunch. I was like, I didn't eat lunch for a year. I used to have to go. I literally would drive to Easy Living, which is a deli right down the street, and I would order ahead. I would pay in advance, and I'd eat my food in the ride back to the Woody, which is it's like a 4 minute ride. So I mean, it was you had to sneak it in when you could. All right, Nevada, we're at about an hour. Any final thoughts? We just appreciate you guys tuning in. I know this is a little later than normal, but we're just like we got to get something up because people are excited. I mean, we're coming into the biggest opportunity of Ryan Day's career, in my opinion, kind of a crossroads kind of game, a game where you really could bring a lot of joy to Buckeye Nation by getting this thing done, which I think we can. Because the more I watch Georgia, the more that I think they're very beatable. I think that this is one of those games where they lost Nolan Smith, their best pass rusher, which is great for us. He's out for the season, declaring for the draft. I think there's a high chance that they're going to be distracted just because it's hard to do. One thing about like college football, it's really hard to repeat as a national champion. You don't see it very often. A lot of complacency, a lot of distractions, a lot of, Kirby's got to work to beat these kids down, when they're distracted. And I just think that all benefits Ohio State because, our kids have already gotten Ryan doesn't have to beat down Ohio State because Buckeye Nation has already beaten down these kids for getting waxed by Michigan, and they should. There's nothing wrong with that. Like when you lose at Ohio State, is like I tell people, when you win, you get insane amounts of adulation, and when you lose, like you're going to deal with people that are really angry that you lost. So that's just part of the gig, and I like it like that. Like I tell people, look, don't take that as a negative because look, I like that people are passionate. Because, I run a message board for a living. People love being on our message board. People want to know what's going on. People want to know they constantly check it. They check it as soon as they wake up in the morning. They check it right before they go to bed. And they check it about 1,000 times in between. So when people tell me that, I love that. So thank you for the passion. Appreciate you guys. BuckeyeScoop.com. Again, great late Christmas gift. But Nevada, anything to close this thing out? We've talked about a myriad of topics tonight. This has been a great show. Appreciate you guys tuning in. But anything to close this thing out, Nevada?
No, just Ohio State's had a great bowl practice. I mean, they've had a great bowl prep, and they're not always this way. They're not always this sharp, but it's been a very, very, very good bowl prep for Ohio State, and I think those are the kind of indicators that you'd want to see. To have such a Herculean task as to upset a really terrific Georgia team. You better be sharp. You guys better have your mind right. I think they feel like they've got a really, solid game plan going into this game, and the kids believe, and there's no pressure. So you're getting all the energy and the excitement and the upbeat nature of the bowl prep without any of the kind of the overriding pressure of being the defending champion or the weight of expectations or the weight of perfection or the weight of being the favorite. We have none of that, and I think that's really going to inure to Ohio State's benefit, and I think that it seems like the players are really responding to it, and the practices reflect that.
Yeah, and obviously, the practices being sharp is key. The team having an edge is key. But I really like that it's kind of like a road game because road games have so many fewer distractions because you don't have family coming to town. You don't have kind of the mishmash. Like imagine if they played this game in like Cleveland. And these players have to deal with, travel arrangements and parents coming to the game and people wanting tickets and, and just kind of like the fervor that would be surrounding this game if it was like in the state of Ohio instead of in Georgia. Like Bama has to deal with that. They have to deal with, and they have to deal with people asking dumb questions like, well, should I just save my money for LA for the championship or should I, because there's going to be a contingency of Georgia fans. Again, this is kind of like the exhaustion that comes with being great. It's like what Alabama fans deal with. Like, look, do I really want to go to the first round of the playoffs or do I just want to save my money for the national title? Like, I mean, do I really? And when you've gone to it back-to-back years, I mean, you're taking out a second mortgage to go to these games because they're so expensive. The flights are expensive. Tickets are expensive. Obviously, the first round's in Georgia, that helps. But, it's going to these guys try to save it for LA for Christmas tickets. I mean, it's 10, 15 grand, flights, hotel, good seats, it's an expensive deal, but we appreciate you guys so much. I'm gonna wrap this thing up. I'm gonna let Nevada do your thing. Any final words, Nevada?
No, just everybody again appreciate you guys watching these these videos and these live streams, we're really humbled by the reaction. The numbers, our numbers are all-time highs, and we couldn't do without our great fans. So I just want to say thank you guys and gals so much for your patronage. Really appreciate it.
Appreciate you guys. We are going to wrap this thing up. I don't know how many of you all are on BuckeyeScoop.com, but you guys need to get on there because it is crazy. Bill the Bank Greene and I, we do one of these. We kind of alternate between Nevada and I and Bill and I, just because we've done some shows where we've had all three of us, but I like to give these guys a lot of airtime to talk just because they're really opinionated. They're really good at what they do. I love Bill Greene's opinions. He's fantastic. Best recruiting guy out there. Nevada, obviously, we've done a million shows together. So I love doing these. I appreciate you guys tuning in. It's such a fun treat to interact with you guys. Thank you for the fantastic questions. The questions really make it fun because, the big reason we like doing these live shows is because you guys bring some really good stuff, some thought-provoking stuff. So thank you guys for that. And again, if you are not members of Buckeye Scoop, I'm telling you, if you've never been a part of a premium Ohio State community, it is a fun thing to do. There are some of the greatest people, a lot of really big time people. You'd be stunned who's behind these screen names. Like sometimes I'll get a call from someone who's, we have members of the board of trustees. We have some of the biggest donors at Ohio State. And I'll say, that's you? Like, I'll look, cause I could look and see, who's who. And I'll say, really, that's you? It's like, oh yeah, I love your stuff. And it turns out it's one of the biggest donors at Ohio State. And like, there's some of the greatest people you'd ever meet. And they're just all big supporters of Ohio State. They love Ohio State. They love knowing what's going on. And that's kind of what we do. That's what we cultivate. And it's a fun board. It's a very, it's a clean board. We make sure that it's fun. Everybody has a blast. Keep it real positive. Again, it's a great place for you to be and to hang out. So we appreciate you guys so much. I hope you guys have a great Christmas. Probably do another one of these tomorrow, as we get into Christmas Eve, Christmas Day. Might be able to swing loose for a half hour to an hour to do another one, but we appreciate you guys as we march towards the 31st and our date with the Georgia Bulldogs on New Year's Eve. If you guys have not liked this video, appreciate if you guys would. That really helps the video a ton. Comment down below, what do we need to do to beat the Georgia Bulldogs? So the comments will go live as soon as this video is over. So we appreciate you with that. But again, I wish you guys a Merry Christmas. I hope you guys have a great time with your friends and family. Again, it's a great time of the year, Christmas. Then you got the bowl game, massive opportunity for Ryan Day and the guys. So it's gonna be a really good show. And our coverage has been crazy. Again, we have updates pretty much every day from what's going on in the Woody Hayes. So that is what you guys want, and that is what we give you guys. So appreciate you guys as always. Thank you so much, Buckeye Nation. Thank you, Scoop family. I hope you guys have a great rest of your night. Talk to you guys tomorrow. Go Bucks. Beat the Bulldogs.